Mansiti Seva Chinchobiro Sunda Hogevare. Edi Mansiti Sevago Nana Asuro Jinadi Sidua wa Lavati Sukhano Changamya Vyatare Maye ne Bokuha Tati Chaune Bokuha Edi Mansiti Sevago Maung Nangude Ye ne Bokuda Aung Nabiro Chanda Yanine Surabori Micha Shivare Chanda Bachanda Lesra Dini Celebrity of Yoga.
Last night, the Sadhu concluded the series of talks on the 10 armies of Mara. In connection with the conquest of the 10 armies of Mara, the scriptures tell us that only the one with heroic effort will be able to conquer these 10 armies of Mara and gain a supreme bliss. Those who are not courageous but timid and cowardly will never be able to vanquish these 10 armies of Mara. Tonight, the Sadhu will like to talk on this supreme bliss that awaits one upon the total conquest of Mara's armies.
Chanda Yare Sara Nivarana Diari Kiwi Sinjedwaye Vivekasa Dukha Sara Paramazam Sayara Tautania Sanjoni Pure Kapadabare. Now Dudia Zayode Kajara Samadija Sukha Saravani Say Tinye who Akon Lalu Chipore Chanda. Now Dadia Zayode Kajara Apitija Sukasa Piti Mapavene Tuka Uekane Chanda. Now Zruda Zayode Kajara Ubeka Bari Sodi Jasukha Saravani Ubekha Jau Tinye Yinde de Ubekha the Wajak Pipore Chanda Wali, Edi Chandari, Tasan Chandari Babe, Edi San Chandari goes Gada Lone Pompole, Nikama Sukha Saravani, Nikamana Sukha Yame.
In one of Sadhu's previous talks, he discussed the different levels of happiness that could be attained through the development of jhanas, of absorptions. When the hindrances are overcome and the first jhana is attained, the happiness that can be realized is that which comes from seclusion of the mind from the hindrances. A further development of jhana practice will bring about the second jhana, which makes a second sort of happiness available. That happiness is called the happiness that is born out of concentration. It comes because of a tranquility of mind. When the third jhana is attained, there is another sort of happiness which can be experienced, which is free from the coarseness of excitement and exhilaration. It is free from rapture and joy, which in fact is an aspect of mental agitation. Come the fourth jhana, there is a deeper level of happiness which is very still and calm and equanimous. Equanimous? Equanimous. And that is the happiness that is born out of equanimity. So these 4 types of happiness is generally classified as nikkama sukha, the happiness of renunciation.
အဲ့ဒီနိက္ခမစုခတစ်ဆင့်နောက်နိဗ္ဗာန်ချမ်းသာဆိုတာတွေ့သွားမှာပါပဲအဲ့ဒီနိဗ္ဗာန်ချမ်းသာအထိရနိုင်တယ်လို့ဒီလိုဆိုလိုပါတယ်
Beyond these 4 types of happiness, classified as the happiness of renunciation, one can further experience another sort of happiness. That is the happiness of Nibbana.
ဒီနိဗ္ဗာန်ချမ်းသာအကြောင်းဒီနေ့ပြောပါမယ်
Sayadaw would like to talk about the happiness of Nibbana today.
အဲ့ဒီနိဗ္ဗာန်တရားကိုတချို့ကယုတ်ဝိစေစယုတ်ထုနာဝိစေစနာထုလို့ဒီလိုလည်းယူဆကြပါတယ်
Some people think that Nibbanic happiness refers to a special sort of matter or of mind.
တချို့ကလည်းပဲခန္ဓာကိုယ်ရဲ့မှာအနှစ်အမရီအနေအားဖြင့်ခိုင်မြဲတဲ့နိစ္စတရားလို့ဒီလိုလည်းပဲယူဆကြပါတယ်
Others believe that Nibbanic bliss refer to the essence that can be found within one's body, which has a quality of eternity about it.
အဲ့ဒီယုံနာတရားတွေချုပ်ကျက်သွားတဲ့အခါမှာအဲ့ဒီအနှစ်အမရီအနေနဲ့ပေါ့လေအဖတ်တင်ပြီးတော့ကြားနေခဲ့တဲ့တည်ရှိနေတဲ့သဘောကိုပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်လို့ဒီလိုယူဆတာ
In other words, it is the belief that upon the extinguishment of mind and matter, there will remain an essence behind that is this Nibbanic happiness.
တချို့ကလည်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်မှာယုံနာကမရှိတော့ဝိရိယစုခခေါ်တဲ့ခံစား권မရှိမရလို့ရှိရင်အဘယ်မှာချမ်းသာဖြစ်နိုင်ပါမလဲလို့ဒီလိုလည်းပဲယုံမှတ်တန်တရားတင်းလင်းနေပေါ့လေဒီမှာယူဆကြတာလည်းရှိပါတယ်
Yet others may be filled with great doubt. They argue, if indeed Nibbana refers to the extinguishment of both mind and matter, then how can there be anything that can be experienced in the absence of mind and matter? They think in terms of a sort of happiness that can be experienced through the senses.
အခုပြောခဲ့တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေဟာမိမိတို့ထင်ရမြင်ရပေါ့လေပြောလဲပြောကြပါတယ်စာဥစာရတွေလည်းပဲရေးကြပါတယ်အမှန်ကတော့တစုံတစ်ခုသောအာယုံရဲ့အကြောင်းကိုအဲ့ဒီအာယုံရရှိမှုတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကပဲပိုင်နိုင်သိမြင်နိုင်ရရှိပါတယ်ဒါလိုပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်ရဲ့အကြောင်းကိုလည်းနိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုရပြည့်တဲ့အရိယပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များသာပိုင်နိုင်စွာပေါ့လေသိမြင်နိုင်ပါတယ်
There are many people who talk and discuss a lot about the nature of Nibbana. There are also numerous books that are written on this Nibbanic experience. However, it should be realized that only the Noble One who has had a first-hand experience of Nibbana will be able to talk about it in a way that comes out of first-hand experience. It is only such a person will be able to talk about Nibbana with total conviction.
ယခုခေတ်တမ္မာပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေအတွေ့အမြင်တွေကတော့လေးနေတဲ့နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုအမှန်ထိထိမိမိမသိနိုင်ပါဘူးဒါပေမဲ့လို့ကျမ်းဂန်လာတာရကယုတ်တိကိုချိန်ဆပြီးတော့ဘုန်းကြီးတို့ညာအမြင်နဲ့ဗောလေနည်းနည်းရှင်းပြလို့ရှိရင်နိဗ္ဗာန်ရဲ့အကြောင်းကိုနည်းနည်းတော့ရိပ်စားမိပါလိမ့်မယ်တရားပိုင်ပိုင်နည်းနည်းအထုတတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကတော့လည်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်အကြောင်းတော့ကောင်းကောင်းသိပါလိမ့်မယ်
A discussion on the nature of Nibbana may be Greek to people who have no experience at all in meditation, especially to ordinary lay people, to people who do not practice. However, Sayadaw hopes that with the analogies and similes found in the scriptural texts, he will be able to draw up a picture, so to speak, so that the audience here may be able to understand in a inferential way the nature of Nibbana. However, if there are yogis here who have had deep practice and who have had the experience of Nibbana, this discussion on its nature will be very, very familiar to them.
ခုနကိုထေရကိုပြောကြတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေထဲမှာနိဗ္ဗာန်ယုတ်ဝိသေသနာဝိသေသဒီလိုပြောပါတယ်အမှန်ကတော့အဲ့ဒါလည်းမဟုတ်ပါဘူးဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်ဟာจิตจิตတိကရူပနိဗ္ဗာန်ဆိုတာပေါ့လေပရမတ္ထတရား၄ပါးရှိပါတယ်မျက်မှောက်သိနိုင်တဲ့ပရမတ္ထတရား၄ပါးအဲ့ဒီပရမတ္ထတရား၄ပါးတွေကစိတ်စေတသိက်ရုပ်ခေါ်တဲ့ပရမတ္ထ၃ပါးမှတိကျဖြစ်ပါတယ်တိကျပရမတ္တရားပါဒါကြောင့်ယုံနာသင်္ကာရနဲ့လုံးဝဆက်သွယ်ခြင်းမရှိပါဘူးဒီတော့ယုတ်ဝိသေသနာဝိသေသလည်းပဲမဟုတ်နိုင်ပါဘူး
The argument that, or rather the speculation that Nirvana is some sort of extraordinary mind or matter can be seen true, or rather we can see that such a speculation is null and does not have a foundation, because in reality there are only 4 types of paramattha dhammas. Paramattha Dhamma is usually translated as ultimate realities. But actually, these refer to those things which one can experience directly, personally, without having to go through any conceptual or thinking process. It is a direct, experiential phenomena. There are 4 of these, and they are material phenomena, mental phenomena, which is consciousness, as well as the mental factors or the concomitants of mind that occur simultaneous with each moment of consciousness. And finally, the 4th ultimate reality is Nibbana. From this classification of ultimate realities, one can see that Nibbana has nothing at all to do with material or mental phenomena.
ပြီးတော့ယုံနာနေချုပ်ပြောက်တဲ့အခါကိုယ်တွင်းမှာအနှစ်အမရီအနေနဲ့တီးနေတဲ့သဘောဟာနိဗ္ဗာန်လို့ဒီလိုယူဆပြီးတော့ပြောဆိုတာအမှန်ကတော့အဲ့ဒါလည်းမဟုတ်ပါဘူး။ဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့အဘိဓမ္မာပါဠိတော်များမှာအကြတအတွင်းတရားဗဟိတအပြင်တရားလို့ဒီလို 2 မျိုးခွဲပြီးတော့ပြရမှာဗဟိတဓမ္မာလို့အပြင်တရားလို့ဒီလိုဟောကြားထားတဲ့အတွက်ဗဟိတတရားများဗဟိတတရားတွေမှာပါဝင်နေပါတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်ခန္ဓာကိုယ်အတွင်းမှာအနှစ်အမရီအဖြစ်မြင့်တည်နေတဲ့တမျိုးလည်းမဟုတ်ဘူးဆိုတာရှင်းပါတယ်။
The second conjecture that Nibbana is the remaining essence, is the essence that remains when mind and matter have been extinguished, can also be seen to hold no ground. In the Abhidhamma, it is that in the Abhidhamma, things are classified into 2 categories. We have the category of internal and external things. Nibbana, as this 4th type of ultimate reality, is classified as an external phenomena. Therefore, one can see from this logic that Nibbana has nothing to do with the remaining essence that lies within one's body upon the so-called extinguishment of mind and matter.
ပြီးတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်ဟာပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တ attva လို့ခံစားတတ်တဲ့တရားမျိုးလည်းမဟုတ်ပါဘူးရူပတ္တအစရှိတဲ့ကာမဂုဏ်အာယုံလို့ခံစားခံရတဲ့တရားမျိုးလည်းမဟုတ်ပါဘူးမဟုတ်တဲ့အတွက်နိဗ္ဗာန်မှာဝိရိဒဒုက္ခဆိုတာပေါ့လေအရှင်းမရှိနိုင်ပါဘူးအဲ့ဒီဝိရိဒဒုက္ခထဲမှာလည်းပဲမပါနိုင်ပါဘူးဒါပေမဲ့လို့ဝိရိဒဒုက္ခရဲ့အစပေါင်းများစွာတာလွန်ကောင်းတဲ့အဝိရိဒဒုက္ခခေါ်တဲ့တဏ္ဍိဒုက္ခ ဆိုတာတော့တကယ်မှန်ပါတယ်
Nibbana is also something which cannot be experienced in the same way as a visual object or sound can be experienced through the senses. It is not a sensual object, and therefore it cannot be included in the group of sensual pleasures, whether special or extraordinary, but is something that is beyond that. In fact, it is a sort of happiness that is non-sensual. It is a happiness that cannot be experienced through the senses.
အဲဒီဝိရိယဒုက္ခနဲ့တဏှိဒုက္ခအဝိရိယဒုက္ခကိုလည်းတဏှိဒုက္ခဒီကြောင့်နဲ့စပ်ပြီးတော့အခုမှအငင်းပွားကြတာမဟုတ်ပါဘူးငင်းခုန်ကြတာမဟုတ်ပါဘူးဘုရားလက်ထက်တော်ကာလတွေကငင်းခုန်မှုလေးတွေရှိခဲ့ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီအကြောင်းအရာလေးတော့ဘုရားလက်ထက်ကစัจကြောင်းလေးနဲ့ဆက်နွယ်ပြီးတော့ဘုန်းကြီးကရှင်းပြပါမယ်
This argument about the nature of Nibbana in respect of a sort of happiness that can be perceived through the senses, and in terms of happiness that cannot be perceived through the senses, is not something that is new. This dispute has been going on for many thousands of years, even during the Buddha's time. In connection with this dispute, Sayadaw would like to talk about a Jataka tale. I'm sorry. He would like to talk about a sutta that is found in the Anguttara Nikaya.
အဲ့ဒီဆွေးနွေးရဌာနနိဗ္ဗာန်နဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့ပြောဆိုဆွေးနွေးရဌာနကတော့ဇူရိကျောင်းရာဇဂျူမြို့ကလန္တကနိဝပခေါ်တဲ့ဝိလုဝံကျောင်းပါပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်ကျောင်းကိုစတင်ပြီးတော့ပြောကြတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကတော့ရှင်သာရိပုတ္တရာကုလိုမြတ်ကြီးပါပဲအဲ့ဒီနိဗ္ဗာန်အကြောင်းအရာနဲ့စတဲ့တရားကိုနာကြားတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကတော့ယဟန်နေပါပဲယဟန်ပိဋကလူပိဋကတွေလည်းပဲပါပါလိမ့်မယ်အဲ့ဒီယဟန်ပိဋကတွေကမကျေနပ်လို့ထပြီးတော့စောရကတက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကတော့ဥဒ္ဓာယီတဲ့အဲ့ဒီဥဒ္ဓာယီကိုတော်ကြီးကထားပြီးတော့ပြောပါတယ်
This discussion on Nibbana took place in India during the time of the Buddha in the monastery called Jetavana. Called Veluvana. And it was situated around Rajagahi. The speaker at that time was the Venerable Sariputta. He was talking about Nibbanic bliss or happiness to an audience consisting of bhikkhus, of monks. And one of them was quite dissatisfied with the way the Venerable Sariputta was talking about Nibbana. He stood up and asked the Venerable Sariputta,
Sariputara Sukhamita also Nibbana, Sukhamita also Nibbana. Nashino Hori Nibbana ha Chandare, no? Nashino Hori Nibbana Chandare, no Suravoli. Concept boli. Amede and Nene Yahanori go Tiasa Pubido Hovare.
The Venerable Sariputta had started the discussion going by asking the audience of monks, friends, isn't Nibbana blissful? Friends, isn't Nibbana blissful?
Adilo Tiasa Pulete Ka Tiana Pita Dega Udayi Kore Yahandabaga Tabido. King Benita also Sariputta Sukham Yedita Nati Wuditan Nashin Sariputta Any neighbor ma Kanzam Wudita Mashivude. The Galo Mashivu Solushi Chanda ha Bemaro Chanda Pitnai Bama Laboni.
From amongst the group of bhikkhus gathered there, the Venerable Udayi stood up and questioned the Venerable Elder. Bhante, he said, if there is no sensation in Nibbana, how can there be happiness? How can there be bliss? Where is bliss?
Siddhariputta Gurumyajiya Luelwe Yamila Pilai Bare Edi Kansamu Mashi Jendi Benlaye Niban Chanda Bengashin Irupiam Shivara.
The elder answered, my friend, it is precisely because that there is no sensation in Nibbana that it is so blissful.
Siddhariputta Gurumyaji Pira Jinyin Live Dua Pahili Jagatale Sane Kiropoiru Pita Velu Yusamane.
Well, the Venerable Sariputta gave a very short to the point answer, almost like a riddle. Wonder what the audience here thinks about that answer. Kanzamu mashi jendi benle chanda be. It is precisely because there is no sensation that Nibbana is so blissful. Any tries? Well, if there are no answers, Sayadaw will have to give it to you.
Vidita Dukha Jangli Nene Piobiazi, oh, now leve Chevido to say I can't out the Kajaro Pioba Ume. Nearly Tia on Kanzamus with a Vidita Duka ha Kanzavido, Gong Duare. Edlu Gonduare at the ya on lo Susan Shapuyara ha Teta Yala Surabori. Era Sinzabu.
Before the Sayadaw answers the riddle, he would like to first talk sensual pleasure or sensual happiness. Sensual happiness is such that it can be experienced through the senses, but it will come and go. It is fleeting. We're happy one moment and it's gone the next. We're never quite satisfied. And we keep on looking for more. Keep on looking for more novel sorts of pleasure and happiness. Is it really enjoyable to go around hunting for something that is so ephemeral and changing all the time? Look at the amount of trouble that one has got to go through in order to experience all those novel new experiences which we think will bring us happiness. Look at the suffering that is involved in having to go through all that. If you could just compare the amount of suffering you have to go through in order to just experience those few fleeting moments of happiness, then you may perhaps realize how futile and vain it is. In fact, some people have such a great desire to experience all those types of happiness, all those types of pleasures which they think will bring them happiness, that they go to the extent of even breaking the law, of committing crimes and atrocities, of committing unwholesome activities, causing harm to other people, in order to experience that very fleeting and ephemeral sensual pleasure. Not only do we have to suffer for the consequences of the crimes and atrocities that we have committed in this life, but think of the suffering that we may have to suffer, we may have to go through in another life. The happiness of peace to be found in Nibbana is quite distinct and separated from these sensual happiness, these sensual pleasures which people call happiness. It occurs upon the cessation of the suffering mass of mind and matter. It is the blissful peace of extinction of suffering.
ဒီစကားအရဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီရဲကချမ်းသာနှမျိုးပေါ်ထွက်လာပါပြီအဲ့ဒီချမ်းသာနှမျိုးဆိုတာတိဝိရိဒသုခတစ်မျိုးနဲ့နှစ်အဝိရိဒသုခခေါ်တဲ့စန္တိသုခဆိုတာနှမျိုးပေါ်ထွက်လာတယ်
So we can see that there are two types of happiness. The happiness that can be experienced through the senses in terms of sensual pleasures, and that which goes beyond the senses and occurs upon the extinguishment of mind and matter.
ဝိရိဒဒုက္ခဆိုတာအာယုကောင်း6ပါးနဲ့တွေ့ထိရရှိတဲ့ချမ်းသာမျိုးကိုဝိရိဒဒုက္ခလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်အဝိရိဒဒုက္ခဆိုတာအဝိရိဒခေါ်တဲ့တဏှိဒုက္ခဆိုတာကတော့အာယုနဲ့မထိတွေ့ရဘဲနဲ့ငြိမ်းချမ်းတဲ့ချမ်းသာကိုပြောပါတယ်
The happiness that is born of sensual pleasures occurs when there is contact with the respective 6 sense objects. But the happiness of Nibbana, which is a non-sensual happiness, does not depend on contact with any sensual object, but arises because there is no contact at all with sensual objects.
အဲ့ဒီဝိရိဒဒုက္ခကိုထင်ကြီးနေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များကတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်မှာခံစားမှုမရှိတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုမကြိုက်နိုင်ဘူးနိဗ္ဗာန်ချမ်းသာကိုဘာဖြစ်လို့လဲဆိုတော့အခုအမြင်ကောင်းလေးတွေမြင်ပြီးတော့ချမ်းသာမှုဆိုတာဟာမျက်စိရုပ်ရှိမှမြင်စရာအဆင်းရုပ်ကလည်းရှိပါမှမြင်သိတဲ့နံတရားလေးတွေလည်းရှိပါမှဒါမှမြင်ကောင်းချမ်းသာဆိုတာဝိရိဒဒုက္ခလေးပေါ်ထွက်လာတာပြီးတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်မှာမျက်စိရုပ်တယ်လည်းမရှိဘူးမြင်စရာအဆင်းရုပ်တာယာစရာဒါလည်းမရှိဘူးမြင်သိတဲ့သဘောလည်းမရှိဘူးယုံနာနေချုပ်နေတယ်ဆိုတော့ခုနမြင်ကောင်းချမ်းသာဝိရိဒဒုက္ခမရှိတော့ဓမ္မမလို့ဆရာလဲတဲ့ဒီနိဗ္ဗာန်ဟာချမ်းမချမ်းသာပဲဆိုတာပေါ့လေဒါဥရယီမထေရကြီးကအဲ့ဒါကိုစဉ်းစားပြီးတော့သူကကန့်ကွက်တာ
For those who have a deep attachment to the first sort of sensual happiness, the idea of Nibbana as a non-sensual happiness may be very frightening, very threatening. It must, to such a person, Nibbana would appear to be a very horrible experience. You will not be able to understand how happiness can arise when there is no experience at all. As far as he is concerned, he can appreciate or enjoy a beautiful visual object only if certain elements are present. Only if one has workable eyes, working eyes, if one has only if the object is present, and only if consciousness is there. In the absence of these, how can one ever experience or appreciate a beautiful object? His logic is the same with regard to the other senses. And therefore, it will be quite incomprehensible to such a person as to how Nibbana can be realized when the sensual objects is not being experienced, if mind and matter have indeed been extinguished. So it was on account of this, of such a thinking, that the Venerable Udayi posed the question to the elder Sariputta.
တို့တူရဲ့တာချွေးတဲ့အတန်လေးတွေနားထောင်ပြီးတော့ဝိရိဒဒုက္ခပေါ်ဒီကြားချမ်းသာလေးကြိုက်နေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များလည်းနိဗ္ဗာန်မှာနာယုံမရှိအတန်ယုံမရှိကြားသိတဲ့အနန္တရားမရှိဆိုတော့ဒီကြားသိချမ်းသာလေးသူဆုံးရှုံးသွားတာခံစားမှုမရှိဘူးဆိုတော့ဘာလို့ဆရာလဲချမ်းသာသိပြတဲ့အနန္တလေးတွေရှူရှိုက်ပြီးတော့ချမ်းသာမှုယူတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကလည်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်မှာနှာခေါင်းမရှိအနတ်ရှူစရာအနတ်မရှိရှူသိတဲ့စိတ်လည်းမရှိဆိုတော့ယုံနာနေချုပ်နေတယ်အဲ့ဒီမှုချိုင်တဲ့နာလေးတွေရှူပြီးတော့ချမ်းသာတွေပြောက်သွားတာအရသာကြိုက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များကလည်းနိဗ္ဗာန်မှာရှားယုံမရှိအရသာယုံမရှိအရသာသိတဲ့စိတ်မရှိယုံနာနေအကုန်လုံးချုပ်နေတယ်အထီးအတွေ့ကြိုက်နေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များကလည်းပဲယုံနာမှာကိုယ်ကာယပဒါရခေါ်တဲ့ကိုယ်ကြည်ယုံမရှိတွေ့ထရတဲ့ဖုဒ္ဓဘာယုံမရှိတွေ့ထိတိတာလည်းမရှိတော့ဓမ္မအတွေ့အထိလေးတွေပေါ့အမှန်တရားနုညံ့တဲ့အရာလေးတွေထိတွေ့တာလူချင်းထိတွေ့တာပေါ့လေဒီချမ်းသာလေးတွေမရှိဘူးပေါ့ခံစားမှုမရှိဘူးခံစားမှုမရှိလို့ရှိရင်ဘာလို့ဆရာလဲဒီချမ်းသာကဘာကောင်းမှာလဲလို့ဒီလိုဆိုလိုတာ
Yet to another who might have a great attachment to beautiful sounds, it will be unthinkable for him to sacrifice the experience or the appreciation of beautiful sounds for that horrid Nibbana, which occurs in the absence of all these things. If there's no ear and there's no ear consciousness and there's no sound, how can I ever get happiness? If there's no fragrance and there's no nose and there's no smelling consciousness, why can I get delight in smelling the fragrance? If there's no tongue and there's no food and there's no tasting consciousness, then how will I be able to enjoy my food? If there's no body, there's no body consciousness, and there are no other tactile objects, how will I be able to get pleasure from my body? Such people will find it quite impossible to even imagine how anyone could contrive with such a horrid idea as Nibbana.
အထူးအဖြင့်အလှကြိုက်တဲ့အမျိုးသမီးများဆိုရင်နိဗ္ဗာန်မှာကအလှပြင်စရာပစ္စည်းတွေဘာမှမရှိဘူး။ပေါင်တာတို့ရေမွှေးတို့ဘာမှမရှိဘူး။မှန်တို့ဘာလို့လည်းဘာမှမရှိဘူး။အလှပြင်မှုလည်းပဲမရှိဘူး။ဒီတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်ရောက်သွားလို့ရှိရင်တော့ငါအလှပြင်ရမှာမဟုတ်ဘူး။အလှပြင်မှသူချမ်းသာနေတာဖြစ်တော့ဒီချမ်းသာတော့ငါဆုံးတော့မှာပဲဆိုပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒီလိုပုဂ္ဂိုလ်မျိုးကလည်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်ခံစားမှုမရှိတော့ဘာလို့ဆရာလဲလို့ဒီလိုတွေးမှာပဲ
There are also other people, some women who may have a deep attachment to powdering up themselves, to makeup, to making themselves attractive in various ways. To them again, it would be unthinkable to be in a situation where they cannot look into the mirror to appreciate their skin deep beauty. People would start to ask, what's the point of having Nibbana when you say that there is no experience in Nibbana itself.
တချို့အလုပ်ဒီပါတွေပြင်ပြင်ပန်းပန်းလုပ်ပြီးတော့အနားယူတဲ့အခါ picnic တို့ဘာလို့သွားတဲ့အခါပျော်တာပဲပြီးတော့အဖော်အပေါင်းနေနဲ့ပျော်ကြီးထွက်ပြီးတော့ရေကူးတာတို့ဘာတို့ကစားတာတို့ဆိုတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါလိုဟာတွေရှိပြီးတော့ချမ်းသာလူချင်းတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်များနိဗ္ဗာန်မှာအဲ့ဒါတွေဘာမှမရှိဘူးဆိုတော့သူတို့ကြိုက်တဲ့ဟာတွေမရှိတော့နိဗ္ဗာန်ဘာလို့ဆရာလဲလို့ဒီလိုလဲတွေးရင်လည်းတွေးမှာပဲ
Other people may like to take vacations. They go on picnic, they go for a swim in a lake. They have a lot of fun getting together and having parties and balls and barbecues and so forth. They get a lot of fun out of that. And to such people, of course, the very mention of the word Nibbana would be taboo.
Well,
Sayadaw hears that there are some people in this place who like to do that, but he's sure that they are not yogis.
Nibbana yona ni chok twa de so da yona ni chok twa yin da te tha be a te ji te taman te ra mu a te ji te twa da be a te ji te twa lo shi yin do ko lo chi de ha li di myin ja na ya sa thi ya ma ma hou hu takae chand tha ri do sou shung twa bi so bi do chiu pukkol ri ka nibbana jauk de.
Well, some may reason out quite logically too, that if Nibbana is actually the cessation of mind and matter, then it must be this real super death. It must be something really horrendous. What will I be able to do in such a situation? I will not be able to experience even the slightest bit of happiness. People get scared and frightened of the prospect of annihilation.
တချို့ကလည်းပဲနိဗ္ဗာန်ဆိုတာမရှိဘူးအလကားပဲအိမ်မက်ဆန်းဆန်းပြောတာဟာလို့ဒီလိုလည်းပဲဇွန်ညင်းတာလည်းရှိပါတယ်
There are also many skeptics who scoff at the very idea or notion of Nibbana. Oh, that's just a poet's dream. Oh, it's something that cannot ever be attained. It's a mere notion, a concept.
ဝိရိဒဒုက္ခသာတကယ်ချမ်းသာပြီးတော့အာယုန်နဲ့မထိတွေ့ရဘဲနဲ့ငြိမ်းချမ်းတဲ့ချမ်းသာဟာဝိရိဒဒုက္ခတော့မကောင်းဘူးဆိုတာပေါ့လေအဲ့ဒါလိုရင်းပြတဲ့ပုံကိုယ်တွေကိုဘုန်းကြီးကလောကီနီးလေးနဲ့နည်းနည်းပြောပါမယ်
Some, of course, compare this idea or notion of Nibbana, or rather, some people, in comparing this notion of Nibbana with with the happiness that can be experienced through the senses, will find it difficult, very difficult, to believe that Nibbana can be anything better than something which you can actually experience. If Nibbana is a sort of happiness that has no contact at all, no relation at all with sensual objects, then it will, of course, be inferior to the happiness that one can experience through sensual pleasures. Sayadaw would like to clarify on this point.
Logi ayong kamagong ni piezong ne tathi diyaw shi de so ja ba so. Adi tathi ji ha tu eya bo ma aya pa ya nit chait ip pyaw ni de. Adi kha ma logi ayong kamagong ni tu ma mashi ba bu. Nit chait ne de kha da ma ip pyaw ni da tu eya bo ma.
Let's imagine that there is a multi-millionaire who has available to him all imaginable sensual pleasures. Let's say that one day he is having a very nice and sound sleep.
Logi ayong kamagong ni ko pinsinပြီးတော့အိမ်သားတွေကပေါ့လေသူနိုးလာတဲ့အခါမှာစားရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ပေါ့လေအသင့်ရှိနေပါတယ်ဟိုပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြီးကလည်းပဲသူ့အရာပေါ်မှာနစ်ချိုင်နဲ့အိပ်ပျော်လို့ရှိနေသေးတယ်တရားဘက်ကသွားပြီးတော့နှိုးလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်ပြုံးလေးနဲ့ခုနလောကီayong kamagong niထားပြီးတော့သုံးဆောင်မလားအိပ်ဖြစ်ရမလားဆိုပြီးတော့ကျင်းဝမလားဆိုတာပေါ့လေပိဋကစဉ်းစားကြည့်ပေါ့အဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြီးရဲ့နေရာမှာကိုယ်ကနေကြည့်ပေါ့
Imagine also that while he's having this great sound sleep, his chefs have been at work and they create a beautiful array of scrumptious and delicious food on the table, and all very nicely arranged and laid, and everything is quite in order in the full splendor of his mansion. Say that the chef is getting impatient, his food is getting cold, and he wants the master to come down and eat. So let's say a butler, he sends a butler to call him up. What do you think? When he's being awakened, do you think that he will very happily jump up and immediately come down to the dining hall? Or do you think that he would get up angrily and start to scold the butler?
What
do you think?
Any bogo ye ibioni roma Kanzamu tida tinshare kanzamu sura ashimishi babu. Belau bedu kane mamuja ni nani chini melo manamamu. Shugini leve kane machini when I be video chanda mashibabu. Tachue at the leve mashibabu. Sada daughter mashida dating shavada. Belau be isen yanyore iabuma inia bimelu. The aya de chanda bezura dale to mamadibabu. You know, tida tinshare kanzamu sura tuma ashimishi sura tijare.
It will be interesting to know that when this multi-millionaire is in deep and sound sleep, he is totally oblivious of his surroundings. No matter how beautiful the room in which he is sleeping is, his eyes are closed and he is not appreciating any visual objects. No matter how beautiful the music around may be sounding, he is totally deaf to sound. And the fact that he is not eating is quite clear. And also if there is any fragrance that may be in the room, he will be quite oblivious of it. And no matter how comfortable and luxurious the bed he's sleeping on may be, when he's sound asleep, he is totally not aware of the sensation of comfort lying on that bed.
အဲ့ဒါလိုခံစားမှုမပါတဲ့အိပ်ပျော်နေတဲ့ချမ်းသာကိုပဲတကယ်ခံစားတဲ့ချမ်းသာတဲ့သူပို့ပြီးတော့နှိမ့်ချိုက်တယ်ဆိုတာသိထင်ရှားတယ်အဲ့ဒီခံစားမှုမပါတဲ့အိပ်ပျော်ခြင်းချမ်းသာကိုပဲတကယ်ချမ်းသာကြီးလို့ထင်ပြီးတော့အဲ့လိုကောင်းလိုက်တာလို့ဒီလိုတော့မှချီးကျူးတယ်
You can see that there is a certain sort of happiness in that sound sleep, which is not in any way connected with any sensual objects. In fact, the happiness of sound sleep can be so profound that a person who gets up from this great slumber could cry out in praise, "Oh, I had such a nice, long, deep sleep." This is undeniable that this deep sleep has some sort of happiness in it, although it has no connection at all with sensual objects.
အခုပြိတ္တတွေကလည်းပဲနေ့ချက်ချက်အိပ်ပျော်ပြီးနိုးလာတဲ့ခါမှာအဲ့လိုကောင်းလိုက်လေခြင်းဆိုတာဘယ်နှခါလောက်ကြီးကျူးကြတော့ဘယ်နှခါလောက်ကြီးကျူးဘူးတော့
Sayadaw wonders how many of you here in this audience has had the same experience and how many times you have praised the good slumber that you've had.
ကောင်းလိုက်တာကွာဆိုတဲ့စကားထောက်လို့ရှိရင်သူ့မှာအကောင်းရှိပြီဒါပေမဲ့လို့အဲ့ဒီအကောင်းပြစားမှဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ခက်တယ်
If one says, I had such a great deep sleep, then one can gather that there is some sort of happiness in that sleep. But if you were to ask that person to show the happiness that he experienced, that would be a little bit difficult.
ညင်မလားမရှိဘူးလို့ညင်မလားဒီချမ်းသာမျိုး
Can one deny that some sort of happiness exists?
ရှိပါတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ရှင်းပါ
If one says, yes, there is some sort of happiness in that, then can you describe it?
ရှင်းလို့မရညင်လို့မရတဲ့ချမ်းသာတစ်မျိုးတဲ့လောကမှာ
So it's a sort of happiness that can neither be denied nor explained.
အဲ့ဒါနှစ်ဖက်ငါကြားမှာဆက်ပြီးတော့ပြောဒီနေ့တော့ဒါပဲပြောကြအောင်
So much for tonight. And Sayadaw will continue the talk tomorrow.